So over the many years of trying to put my friends and girlfriend onto anime, I've come to the realization that some animes are more beginner friendly than others. There are those you can only understand after watching a multitude of other series, and there are some where only true men of culture can really appreciate. What's up, Bakas? It's your boy Natty, and today I'm going to be giving you all the perfect end-all be-all list of anime to watch if you're a total anime noob, or if the only animes you've ever watched are Dragon Ball Z and Cory in the House. This is going to be a comprehensive list of 5 animes that I think all beginners should watch. These animes are all different in genre for the most part, and I picked them in hopes of helping you guys broaden your horizons. After watching these 5 animes, you guys will have graduated from beginner level weeb to amateur level weeb. So unless you've been living under a rock for the past 20 years, if there's one anime you've heard of, it's probably Dragon Ball Z. For the majority of people, Dragon Ball Z is a pretty good anime. This is because most people like the idea of watching a main character grow stronger and stronger by overcoming tons of trials and tribulations. This is the basis for a good shonen anime. Shonen animes are probably the most popular type of anime, and it's a genre that most people can get into. Being aimed at younger boys, shonen animes are characterized by tons of action, a great adventure, and typically a lot of fist fighting. Dragon Ball Z is the godfather of shonen anime, and the first anime on this list is one of its modern day predecessors. My Hero Academia follows young Izuki Midoriya, who is just a normal boy living in a not so normal world. In a series with countless amounts of superheroes and where having superpowers is typical, Midoriya is seen as an outcast and loser since he was born without any powers. He's even given the nickname Deku, which can be interpreted as the word useless. It isn't until he meets his idol and Japan's #1 hero, All Might, does his story of becoming the world's greatest hero start. When it comes down to it, My Hero Academia is an underdog story where Deku is constantly trying to prove that he is in fact a hero, not only to those around him, but also to himself. Like a typical shonen main character, Deku is determined, has an immense work ethic, and a willingness to put everyone else before him. The show has an immense cast of characters as Deku attends UA, which is a boarding school built to breed a new generation of heroes. The author does an amazing job of developing not just Deku, but the fellow students of Class 1A as we follow their journey. They each have their own unique powers, personalities, and the more prominent classmates all have their own captivating backstories. A lot of them also have their own insecurities and faults, which makes sense because, well, they're still in high school. But as the series progresses, we get to see them grow into their own person and eventually become full-fledged heroes. I think the aspect that the author nails when it comes to having such a large cast is the fact that none of the characters feel as though they were forced into Deku's story, but it feels like they each have their own individual journey. The fighting is gorgeous as we get to see characters with a variety of abilities battle with one another. The author has a lot of liberty with how wacky and creative the battles can get since he created a world filled with unlimited potential. You have guys that can control fire and ice, you have guys that can make explosions out of their sweat, and you have guys that can throw these weird, sticky, purple ball things. All in all, the fights are incredibly well animated and they feel dynamic as opposed to being choppy and repetitive like in some other animes. If you're a fan of the superhero genre or are looking for a fun, action-packed underdog story, then I would definitely say give My Hero Academia a try. The next anime is also a shonen anime, but instead of fighting with fists, they're fighting with balls. Volleyballs. Haikyuu follows Shoyu Hinata, who similar to Deku, is also an underdog. Hinata has been obsessed with the game of volleyball ever since he caught a match on TV featuring the mysterious player known as the Small Giant. He was mesmerized by the fact that the Small Giant was able to soar higher than anyone else on the court despite lacking in height, and it inspired Hinata to one day do the same. Like My Hero, this anime also has an amazing ensemble of characters. Hinata has your standard shonen main character qualities, but he's complemented nicely by the teammates around him, especially by our secondary protagonist, Kageyama, who starts the series off as sullen, arrogant, and oppressive, which are all qualities that are opposite of a typical shonen protagonist. You also get invested into their fellow teammates as you get to learn more about their emotional baggage off the court and how they're all interconnected through the game of volleyball. Sure, there's no superpowers, but the author spends so much time developing the players that you still get the same excitement and suspense that you get in other animes when the players do something as normal as successfully hitting a serve that they've been practicing all season or perfectly executing the game-winning spike. And since it is a sports anime, the show does deal with the aspect of losing and it deals with it quite often. If you ever play a sport or competed in anything in real life, you know how soul-crushing it could be to work so hard for so long only to be faced with defeat. It's heartbreaking, and despite there being zero fighting in this anime, you the viewer feel as though winning or losing the volleyball game is similar to life or death because to some of these characters, it is. I chose Haikyuu because I thought it would be a great anime to act as an entry point for other genres. It shows that you can still get the same rush and catharsis that you get from Dragon Ball Z and other genres not involving fist fighting, and that anime can make you care about topics that you otherwise might not give a shit about. In this case, it was making me care about volleyball. You guys won't regret giving Haikyuu a try, and you'll desperately be wanting more and more episodes. Also, the soundtrack for this anime slaps. For people who wonder how you can like a song without understanding it, just give the openings a listen and you'll find yourself bopping to this shit all day long. So the first non-shonen anime on this list is one of my personal favorites, and it's Code Geass. The story is set in 2010, and the nation of Britannia has begun their world conquest with their newly developed weapons, the Nightmare Frames, which are essentially giant mechs. They eventually take over Japan in part of their conquest, and they designate it as Area 11. The main character is Lelouch v Britannia, who is a Britannian prince that is hiding in Japan. He's a brilliant high school student who spends his days lounging around and cutting class, all while holding on to the belief that one day he will overthrow the tyrannical Britannian government that has betrayed him and his sister. However, his plan to rebel is sped up exponentially when he has a chance to run in with an immortal witch called Cece, who grants him with a power known as Geass. I chose to place Code Geass on this list because it shows a side of anime that is dark and philosophical. Sure, there are some cool fights and explosions. I mean, how can you not have that when you have giant robots flying around? But the show also mindfucks you and challenges your morals and ethics. The series show how anime is not just for prepubescent kids, and it treats its audience as intelligent viewers. It addresses mature themes such as racism and discrimination, and we see that in the treatment of the Japanese, who are now referred to as 11s by the invading colonists from Britannia. It makes us reflect on our own powerlessness in our real lives, as we see multiple characters in the show who want to change the world but are helpless to do so when faced with the tyrannical power that is Britannia. It also shows us what happens to one who travels down the path of revenge and how hate can consume a person. The show has some of the best political mind games that I've seen in any anime. Lelouch is a master-class strategist, and he runs into many rivals cut from the same cloth, all of which are acting in their own self-interest. The show is filled with tons of backstabbing, plotting, deception, and you're always going to be on the edge of your seat. So yeah, this anime is one of my favorites, and it's one of the series that jump-started my strange addiction to Japanese cartoons. Watch Code Geass if you want to watch a show that has a tragic main character, an intricate plot, and is filled with giant robots. So the fourth anime on this list is a complete 180 from Code Geass. It's completely light in tone, and it's something you can just turn your brain off and enjoy. Grand Blue is a diving anime that's not really about diving. Iori Kitahara is about to start college life in a beautiful seaside town, and he plans to dorm in a room above his uncle's scuba diving shop. However, Iori is quickly confronted by two beefy boys who end up roping him into the Peekaboo Diving Club. Now we get to follow him on his journey and learn about the wonderful world of scuba diving. The synopsis is short, simple, and at first glance, it seems as though the anime is going to be a generic slice-of-life anime about scuba diving. But we quickly find out that it's not about that at all, and I mean really quickly. The show puts up a facade that is a diving anime when it's really about Iori and his college adventures. The show is comedic gold, and I placed it on this list because it's a comedy anime I believe anyone can find funny. Unlike some animes that requires you to be familiar with a variety of other shows in order to understand their parodies, or other ones that requires you to be accustomed to Japanese culture and references, Grand Blue touches on topics that we can all understand. It doesn't take a lot to understand that alcohol plus naked buff guys plus an easily influenced main character is super funny. Having gone through college myself, Grand Blue is definitely one of the more, relatable animes that I've seen. There are moments that deal with cheating on exams that you didn't study for, being so hungover that you miss your first day of classes, and having groups of desperate guys doing anything they can to get laid. So if you haven't noticed by now, one of the recurring themes that make an incredible anime is having a great supporting cast, which is exactly what Grand Blue has. There's nothing funny about seeing one guy getting constantly rejected and blacked out drunk. That's just sad. But when you have a group of guys getting rejected and playing drunk rock paper scissors, now that's funny. Grand Blue is for those looking for a chill anime that you can binge watch in one night, and for those looking for running gags that you can joke about with your friends for months. Finally, the last anime on this list is in the running for being the best anime of the year, and in my opinion, on the short list of being one of the greatest animes of all time. Vinland Saga is a historical fiction set in the 11th century, and it focuses on the Vikings' invasion of England. Our main protagonist is Thorfinn, a young angsty boy who is also one of the best warriors, part of a mercenary group led by the cunning Askeladd. However, Thorfinn isn't like the other Vikings. He doesn't live for the endless cycle of pillaging and killing like the rest of them, but instead he's fueled by hatred, and he lives for the sole purpose of taking revenge on Askeladd, the man who ruined his life. There are so many good things to say about this anime, and I plan to do a full review once the series has finished its second core, but the reason I wanted to put it on this list right now is because I feel as though this is a show that most Western audience would be familiar with. Visually and thematically, it's similar to shows like Game of Thrones and obviously the show Vikings. The show is brutal, there's no two ways about it. Characters are getting beheaded and impaled left and right, rape and murder are an everyday thing to the Vikings, and they don't think twice about committing them. They just continue to do so year after year, leaving a trail of dead bodies behind them because that's all they know. That's their way of life. And because of that fact, the show introduces an interesting debate of what's right and what's wrong. The author doesn't paint things as black and white. There's no clear distinction between what's good and what's evil. Is it wrong for the Vikings to kill when it's their way of sustaining their own life? Is it wrong to kill the ones that have wronged you? It's easy to root for Thorfinn in the beginning of the story, but the author also shows you that revenge is just Thorfinn's own selfish ambition and that everyone else around him is just trying to fulfill their own selfish desires. The show does an amazing job at showing the audience the horrors of war and how the murder of one person can cause a ripple effect that affects the lives of a dozen others. It makes you ponder your own morality, makes you question what is love, and forces you to ask what your purpose in life is. I can spend all day raving about the show, but I'll save that for my review. I placed it on this list of anime for noobs because I think it's a story that's able to captivate everyone who watches it. Like I said before, I think Vinland Saga is the perfect series for Western audience members looking to get into anime, and if this show was to ever get a live adaptation, I think it could really blow up. Watch Vinland Saga if you're looking for an epic story that's filled with love, sorrow, revenge, redemption, and Vikings. Alright guys, so that's my list of top 5 animes for total noobs. Let me know down in the comments which animes you guys plan to be watching and what other shows you guys would recommend to those trying to get into anime. If you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.